the city of Los Angeles, a place of glaring contrasts, hummed with its usual energy. On one side, vast homeless encampments stretched under the unrelenting Californian sun, a testament to resilience amidst despair. On the other, gleaming storefronts displayed luxury cars and designer goods, a world promising escape from hardship. Benny stood somewhere in the middle of these extremes. He leaned against a graffiti-streaked wall, clutching a weathered cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." Life hadn't always been this grim for him. Once a college dropout who believed he'd eventually find his way. That someday never came. Now, at 36, Benny was just one of many unseen faces on Los Angeles' streets, struggling to survive with nothing but a sliver of hope. Most days, he was ignored, a figure blurred in the background of hurried footsteps and distracted glances. But today felt different. Something was about to change. Across the street, a crowd had gathered outside a Tesla showroom. Benny noticed the buzz, but his attention quickly zeroed in on the unmistakable figure stepping out of the sleek glass doors, Elon Musk. The billionaire moved with an aura of magnetism that seemed to pull everyone's focus. Cameras flashed. A gaggle of assistants hovered nearby, and passers-by craned their necks for a better view. Benny felt a pang of frustration. How could one man have so much money, power, influence, while others like him were scraping by, invisible to the world? But then, an idea crossed his mind. What if I just asked him for something? It sounded absurd, but what did he have to lose? Without giving himself time to overthink, Benny moved toward the sidewalk where Elon was walking. His heart thudded in his chest, adrenaline drowning out the doubts screaming in his head. As he got closer, Benny took a deep breath and called out, "Hey, man, can you give me $1?" The crowd's hum seemed to pause as the words hung in the air. Benny braced himself for rejection, expecting Elon to brush him off or maybe toss some change his way without a second thought. Instead, Elon stopped in his tracks. Slowly, he turned to face Benny, his sharp gaze cutting through the noise of the street. The assistants halted. The cameras hesitated, and for a moment, it felt like the city itself had gone quiet. $1? Elon repeated, his tone neutral but inquisitive. Benny nodded, suddenly aware of how small his voice sounded. Elon studied him for a moment longer. Then a faint smile crossed his face, an expression that seemed to hold more calculation than warmth. "I won't give you $1, Elon said, his voice calm but firm. Benny's chest tightened. Before he could react, Elon added, "But I'll give you something better." Benny blinked, confusion washing over him. Better? Like what? Elon didn't answer right away. He glanced at his watch, then back at Benny. "Meet me here tomorrow at noon. I have an idea." Without waiting for a response, Elon turned on his heel and strode toward a waiting Tesla, his entourage scrambling to keep up. Within seconds, the electric car merged into the chaotic Los Angeles traffic, leaving Benny frozen in place. The other homeless individuals nearby stared at Benny, their faces a mix of curiosity and disbelief. One finally broke the silence. "What did you say to him?" Benny shook his head, still dazed. "I just asked for $1. "And what did he say?" the man pressed. "You about to get a Tesla or something?" Benny shrugged. "He told me to come back tomorrow." The man let out a sharp laugh, equal parts amusement and bitterness. "Yeah, sure. Good luck with that." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Benny wandered back to his usual spot beneath an overpass. His mind raced with possibilities, some ridiculous, others hopeful. Was Elon serious? Was this some kind of test? A prank? Or an opportunity? For the first time in years, Benny allowed himself to believe in something, no matter how far-fetched it seemed. That night, lying on the cold concrete, he stared up at the stars struggling to shine through the smoggy sky. He didn't have answers, but for the first time in a long while, he felt something stir inside him, a spark of hope. Whatever tomorrow held, Benny knew one thing. It could be the start of something different, something better. The next morning, Benny woke up with a feeling he couldn't quite name. It wasn't dread or hopelessness. Those were feelings he had grown accustomed to. This was something unfamiliar, something he hadn't felt in years. Anticipation? Usually, mornings blurred into an endless routine of scavenging for food, avoiding the judgmental stares of passers-by, and wondering how he would survive another day. But today was different. Today, he had an appointment, not just with anyone, but with Elon Musk, one of the richest and most influential men in the world. It still felt surreal. Was this really happening? Benny replayed the events of the previous day in his mind, his small, impulsive request for a single dollar and Musk's unexpected response. He had thought the billionaire would walk away, like so many others did. But instead, Musk had stopped. He had listened. And now, Benny was on his way to meet him again, though he had no idea what to expect. By the time he reached the Tesla showroom, the sun was high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the sleek glass and steel building. Benny's heart pounded as he stood outside, clutching the straps of his fraying backpack. This place was a world away from the grimy streets he called home, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't belong here. He half expected Musk to be a no-show, but there he was, standing near the entrance as casually as if he were meeting an old friend, dressed in a simple black t-shirt and jeans. Elon Musk didn't look like the world-changing billionaire Benny had imagined. And yet, there was something about his presence, an aura of quiet determination that set him apart. "Glad you made it," Musk said with a nod, his voice calm and friendly, but with an undercurrent of purpose. "Let's take a walk." Benny hesitated for a moment, unsure what to say, before nodding and following him. The two walked side by side through the bustling streets of Los Angeles. For a while, neither of them spoke. Benny stole glances at Musk, trying to gauge his mood, while Musk seemed deep in thought. Finally, Musk broke the silence. "You know, people often think homelessness is just about a lack of money," he said, his tone reflective. "But it's more than that. It's about opportunity, or the lack of it, structure, and most importantly, belief. Belief in oneself and belief from others." Benny listened intently, unsure where this conversation was going but drawn in by the sincerity in Musk's voice. He wasn't just talking to fill the silence. He meant every word. "So, why are you telling me this?" Benny asked, his voice cautious. Musk stopped walking and turned to face him, his gaze steady and piercing. "Because I want to try something new," he said. "Tesla isn't just a car company. It's a company built on the idea of solving big problems: climate change, sustainable energy, space travel. But now, I want to tackle a different kind of problem, a human problem. We're launching a program to help people rebuild their lives. And I need someone to be the first." Benny's brow furrowed. "You want me to be your guinea pig?" Musk shook his head, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Not a guinea pig, a pioneer. Yesterday, you asked me for $1. That caught my attention. It wasn't just the request, it was the boldness behind it. Most people wouldn't have the courage to ask, but you did. And that tells me you have the guts to take a chance." He gestured toward a nearby parking lot, where a gleaming Tesla Model S was parked. "Here's the deal," Elon Musk said, his voice calm but firm. "I want you to be the first participant in this program. You'll get access to resources, tools, and opportunities, but only if you prove you're up to the challenge. Each step will test your determination, creativity, and willingness to grow. And the first task? It starts right now." Benny's eyes widened as he stared at the sleek Tesla parked in front of him. "Wait, you want me to do something with that?" Elon nodded, a slight smile tugging at his lips. "I want you to drive it through downtown Los Angeles without breaking a single traffic rule." Sounds simple, right? It's not. The car has autopilot. Sure, but you'll still need to be in control. Every decision will be yours. Benny hesitated, the weight of his inexperience crashing down. I've never driven a car before." "That's fine," Elon said without missing a beat. "We'll teach you. Think of it as a crash course, figuratively speaking." "Of course." Before Benny could protest further, a Tesla instructor approached. She was carrying a clipboard and wore a kind smile. "Hi, Benny. I'm Clara. I'll be helping you get started today." The next few hours were a blur of instructions, practice runs, and moments that pushed Benny's nerves to the brink. Sitting behind the wheel of the Tesla Model S, its futuristic dashboard glowing softly, Benny gripped the steering wheel like his life depended on it. His palms were sweaty, and his heart raced every time he pressed the accelerator. "Relax," Clara said gently. "This car is designed to assist you, but it still needs your input. Trust the technology and yourself." By the end of the session, Benny had managed to navigate a quiet parking lot without any incidents. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Exhausted but oddly energized, he climbed out of the car. Elon approached, his expression unreadable. "How'd it go?" Clara grinned. "He's a quick learner. With a little more practice, I think he can handle it." Elon turned to Benny, his gaze serious but encouraging. "Tomorrow, the real test begins. Are you ready?" Benny swallowed hard, the enormity of the challenge sinking in. After a moment, he nodded. "I think so." "Good," Elon said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Get some rest. You'll need it." That night, Benny couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying the day's events and what lay ahead. For years, failure had been his constant companion, haunting him at every turn. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something different: purpose. The next morning, Benny arrived at the Tesla lot just as the city was waking up. Clara was already there, her calm demeanor a welcome contrast to Benny's simmering anxiety. "Ready for round two?" she asked. "Ready as I'll ever be," Benny replied, his voice wavering slightly. They began with a quick refresher, and Clara emphasized the importance of staying focused. "The autopilot is like a partner," she explained. "It'll guide you, but you're the one in charge. Remember that." The words hit Benny harder than he expected. He'd spent so much of his life feeling powerless, at the mercy of bad luck and worse decisions. But now, behind the wheel of this cutting-edge car, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: control. The morning started with simple routes, quiet streets with minimal traffic. Benny's nerves eased as he navigated the familiar turns. But as the day progressed, Clara introduced more challenges: busier streets, trickier intersections, and the unpredictable chaos of downtown Los Angeles. Benny struggled at first. A honking horn or sudden brake light was enough to make him flinch. Once, he veered too close to a curb, scraping a tire. But Clara remained calm. "Don't let the mistakes get to you," she said. "What matters is how you recover." By midday, Benny started to find his rhythm. He marveled at the car's capabilities but felt proud of his own growing confidence. Each successful turn, stop, and merge chipped away at his self-doubt. "Nice work," Clara said after Benny navigated a challenging left turn. "You're getting the hang of this." Benny allowed himself a small smile. "Feels like I'm driving a spaceship." Clara laughed. "Pretty close. But don't get too comfortable. Downtown's a whole different ballgame." The final hours of practice were grueling, with Benny tackling crowded streets where pedestrians darted across and impatient drivers wove between lanes. It wasn't perfect, but Benny held his own, drawing on every ounce of focus and determination he could muster. By the end of the day, Benny parked the Tesla back at the lot and stepped out, utterly drained but deeply satisfied. For the first time in years, he felt like he was moving forward, literally and figuratively. Elon Musk arrived just as Benny was wiping the sweat off his brow. The billionaire took in the sight of the car, then turned to Benny with a casual but curious smile. "How'd it go?" he asked. Benny paused, his mind still processing the day's events. "We're making great progress," Clara chimed in, her tone confident. "I think Benny's ready for the challenge tomorrow." Elon raised an eyebrow and glanced at Benny. "What do you think? Are you ready to take on the real thing?" Benny hesitated for a moment. The weight of the question pressed heavily on him. But as he reflected on everything he had learned, the small wins, the doubts he'd overcome, something shifted inside him. The belief that he could actually do this began to solidify. "I'm ready," Benny said, his voice steady. A slight smile crept onto Elon's face. "Good. I'll see you here at 9 sharp tomorrow. And remember, Benny, this isn't just about driving. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you think." As Benny walked away, the sun setting behind him. He felt a surge of determination. Tomorrow wouldn't just be about navigating through downtown Los Angeles. He'd be steering toward a future that, after so many years, finally felt within reach. The morning of the challenge came quicker than Benny expected. When he arrived at the Tesla showroom, a crowd had already gathered. Tesla employees, media personnel with cameras in hand, and a few curious onlookers buzzed around, their energy making Benny's stomach twist. It wasn't every day that a homeless man was given the chance to take on a challenge like this, and the attention was almost too much to bear. Elon greeted him with his usual blend of warmth and directness. "This is it," he said, gesturing to the shiny Tesla Model S parked nearby. The car, pristine and intimidating, gleamed under the morning sun. "You've got the route loaded in the navigation. Just follow the plan. Trust your instincts. And remember, this isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about how you handle yourself along the way." Benny nodded, his hands slightly trembling as Clara handed him the key fob. She gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "You've got this," she said, as Benny slid into the driver's seat. The sleek interior of the Tesla felt both familiar and foreign. The large touchscreen lit up, displaying the route he was to follow through the heart of downtown Los Angeles. It would take him through some of the busiest intersections, navigating unpredictable traffic patterns in a city known for its chaos. Taking a deep breath, Benny adjusted the mirrors, pressed the start button, and felt the car hum to life beneath him. With a light touch on the accelerator, he eased out of the parking lot and onto the road. At first, it felt manageable. The autopilot system kept him in his lane, and the early morning traffic was light. But as he neared the heart of downtown, the true complexity of the challenge began to unfold. Los Angeles was a whirlwind of honking horns, pedestrians darting between cars, and drivers who seemed to treat traffic laws like mere suggestions. Benny's palms began to sweat as he weaved through the streets, his eyes scanning the road, the mirrors, and the car's display. At one point, a cyclist swerved into his lane, forcing Benny to brake sharply. His heart raced as the test sensors beeped in warning, but the autopilot slowed just enough to avoid a collision. The close call left him rattled, but he kept his focus. "Stay calm," he muttered under his breath. "You've got this." Approaching a major intersection, the light turned yellow. Benny faced a split-second decision. Should he speed up or slow down? Remembering Clara's training, he eased off the accelerator, bringing the Tesla to a smooth stop just as the light turned red. Looking in the rearview mirror, he saw Elon's car trailing behind, watching his every move. The next challenge came when he entered a construction zone. Orange cones lined the narrow lanes, and workers in neon vests moved unpredictably. A truck ahead slowed to almost a stop, triggering a chain reaction of braking cars. Benny tightened his grip on the wheel, maneuvering carefully through the bottleneck. Despite the challenges, Benny began to notice something remarkable. He was trusting not just the car's capabilities, but his own instincts. The autopilot helped, but every decision, every judgment call, was his. Each successful turn, stop, and lane change felt like a victory, pushing back the doubts that had haunted him for years. As he neared the end of the route, Benny faced one final test, a chaotic roundabout with multiple entry points and an endless stream of impatient drivers. He took a deep breath, signaled his intent, and merged into the flow of traffic. The car's sensors guided him, but it was his steady hands and focused mind that ensured a smooth exit. Finally, the destination appeared, a designated parking lot where Elon and the small crowd were waiting. Benny's shoulders sagged with relief as he steered the Tesla into a spot and turned off the engine. He had done it. The moment Benny stepped out of the car, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Elon Musk approached, his expression unreadable. Benny wiped his sweaty palms on his jeans, nervously awaiting his feedback. "Well?" Benny asked, his voice uncertain. Elon pulled out a tablet and reviewed footage from the car's cameras. After a long pause, he looked up and smiled. "Not a single infraction," he said. "You followed every rule perfectly." Impressive work. A surge of pride filled Benny, unlike anything he'd felt in years. The doubts, fears, and hesitation he'd battled for so long seemed to vanish in that moment. This small but significant triumph felt like a breakthrough. You didn't just navigate LA traffic, Elon continued. You proved that with the right tools and determination, you can tackle even the toughest challenges. This is just the beginning. Benny, are you ready for the next step? Benny nodded, a new confidence shining in his eyes. Let's do it. As the crowd began to disperse and Tesla employees congratulated him, Benny realized something profound. This wasn't just a test of his driving skills, it was a test of his ability to reclaim control over his life. For the first time in years, he felt like he was in the driver's seat again. A few days later, Benny arrived at Tesla's headquarters for his next challenge. The campus buzzed with activity, engineers, designers, and executives moving with purpose. Benny felt a familiar pang of self-doubt as he stepped through the glass doors, but he pushed it aside. If he'd learned anything recently, it was that growth came from confronting discomfort head-on. Elon greeted him in a small conference room, accompanied by Clara and several other Tesla employees. A map of South Los Angeles spread across the table, along with a slideshow of neglected streets, abandoned lots, and heaps of trash. Your next challenge, Elon began, is about leadership. We've identified a neighborhood in South LA that's been overlooked for far too long. Your task is to organize a cleanup initiative to transform this area. Tesla will provide the resources, tools, supplies, logistics, but the heart of this mission is about people. You'll need to recruit volunteers from the local homeless community to help you. Benny's stomach dropped. Organizing a cleanup sounded challenging enough, but convincing others, especially those who shared his struggles, to trust and follow him seemed impossible. Why would they listen to me? He asked, doubt creeping into his voice. Elon leaned forward, his gaze steady. Because you've been where they are. You understand their challenges, and you're proof that change is possible. Leadership isn't about perfection. It's about inspiring others to believe in something bigger than themselves. The room fell silent as Elon's words hung in the air. Benny took a deep breath, still unsure but determined. Okay, he said, I'll give it my best shot. The next morning, Benny stood in the heart of the neighborhood Tesla had identified. The area was as bleak as the photos had shown: littered sidewalks, graffiti-covered walls, and an air of abandonment that seemed to hang over everything. A few homeless individuals loitered nearby, watching with wary eyes as Benny and the Tesla team unloaded supplies. Taking another deep breath, Benny approached a small group gathered by a makeshift tent. Hey, he began, his voice steady but unsure. I'm Benny. I'm working on a project to clean up this neighborhood, and I could really use your help. One man, his face weathered and clothes tattered like Benny's had been just weeks ago, squinted at him. Why should we care? Ain't nobody cared about this place before? Benny hesitated, then spoke from the heart. I get it. I've been there. Still am. In some ways. But this isn't just about cleaning up trash. It's about showing people that this place, and the people in it, deserve respect. It's about taking pride in something, even if it's small. We can't wait for someone else to fix things. We have to start somewhere. There was a long pause before the man shrugged. All right, I'll give it a shot, but don't expect miracles. One by one, others began to step forward, their curiosity outweighing their skepticism. By midday, Benny had assembled a team of about a dozen volunteers, each armed with gloves, trash bags, and cleaning tools provided by Tesla. They got to work. The transformation wasn't easy. The sun blazed down, and the amount of debris was overwhelming. Benny quickly learned that leading a team wasn't just about giving orders. It was about listening, encouraging, and stepping in when morale dipped. When one volunteer grew frustrated with a stubborn pile of trash, Benny joined him, their combined effort making the task feel less daunting. When another complained about the heat, Benny reminded them to take breaks and stay hydrated. Something incredible began to unfold as the group of volunteers, initially hesitant, started to form a bond. Laughter began to replace the murmurs of frustration, and a sense of community took root. By the end of the day, they had transformed an entire block, uncovering sidewalks and greenery that had been hidden for years. As the neighborhood residents peered out from their homes, Some even came forward to offer thanks or to pitch in. One elderly woman, tears in her eyes, approached Benny. "I've lived here for 30 years," she said. "I never thought I'd see someone care enough to do this. Thank you." When the day's work was complete, Benny and his team gathered beneath the shade of a large tree, exhausted but proud. They shared bottles of water and marveled at their achievement. Benny felt a sense of fulfillment that had eluded him for years. The Tesla crew, documenting the progress, captured every moment. By evening, Elon Musk himself arrived to see the results. He walked the block, nodding in approval. Before addressing the group, "This is incredible work. What you've done here isn't just about cleaning up a neighborhood. It's about creating hope. And hope is contagious," he said. Turning to Benny, he continued, "Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about bringing out the best in others. You've done that today, and this is just the beginning." As the group dispersed, Benny lingered for a moment, gazing out over the transformed block. He thought about the people he had met that day, their struggles, and their willingness to make a difference despite it all. For the first time, Benny didn't feel like just another participant in someone else's plan. He felt like a leader, someone who could inspire change. Walking away from the neighborhood that evening, Benny realized that this challenge had given him more than just a sense of accomplishment. It had given him a sense of purpose. The following week, Benny found himself in a completely different world, Tesla's headquarters in Palo Alto. The sprawling campus felt like something out of a science fiction novel, with sleek glass buildings gleaming under the California sun. Engineers, programmers, and designers moved with purpose, conversing in technical jargon that made Benny's head spin. He felt out of place, starkly contrasting the polished professionals around him. But as he stepped into the main building, a sense of wonder replaced his nervousness. The air seemed alive with innovation, as if every corner held a promise of possibility. Elon greeted him in the lobby with his usual calm demeanor. "Welcome to Tesla HQ," he said, gesturing for Benny to follow. "Today, I want to show you what's possible when people dare to think differently." They toured various departments, starting with engineering. Rows of engineers worked on massive screens displaying intricate 3D models. A team tested a prototype for a new battery system, while another fine-tuned a machine that could assemble car parts with incredible precision. "This is where ideas take shape," Elon explained. "Every innovation begins with a problem, and every solution starts with a question. What if?" Benny nodded, though he was overwhelmed by the complexity of it all. He wasn't great with technology, but he couldn't help but admire the creativity and drive that filled the room. The next stop was a workshop dedicated to Tesla's experimental projects, where Benny saw prototypes for Hyperloop transportation, drones, and even a solar-powered shelter designed for disaster zones. "This," Elon said, turning to Benny, "is where I want you to start thinking. The program we're building isn't just about helping individuals. It's about creating systems that address the root causes of homelessness, lack of resources, lack of opportunities, and lack of hope." Benny stared at the solar-powered shelter, his mind racing. "Do you think this could really work? Like, for people on the streets?" Elon nodded. "Not only do I think it can work, I believe it can scale. That's the point of all this. Using technology to create solutions that don't just patch problems, but solve them at their core." Later, in a conference room, a small group of Tesla employees gathered around a large touchscreen displaying graphs and mock-ups of the homeless initiative. Elon turned to Benny. "Now, it's your turn. What do you think this program needs to succeed? You've been through the system. Your perspective is invaluable." Benny hesitated, then spoke slowly. "When you're homeless, it's not just about surviving. It's about feeling invisible, like you don't matter. If this program can give people a goal, a purpose, and a way to prove to themselves they're worth something, that's what will make it work." The room fell silent as the team processed his words. Then a young woman, tablet in hand, nodded thoughtfully. "What if we incorporated a gamification aspect, small tasks that build toward bigger achievements, with rewards along the way?" Elon smiled. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need." "Benny, what else?" Benny, now feeling more confident, added, "You know how there's an app for everything these days? What if there was an app for this program? It could connect people with resources, shelters, food, jobs, and track their progress. Show them how far they've come. Elon leaned back, clearly impressed. That's a solid idea. Practical, scalable, and empowering. As the meeting concluded, Benny felt both exhausted and exhilarated. He had never thought of himself as someone who could contribute to something so impactful. But the way the team had listened made him believe he had more to offer than he'd ever realized. As he left, Elon pulled him aside. You're doing more than just participating in this program. You're shaping it. And if this works the way I think it can, you won't just be helping yourself, you'll be helping thousands of others. Benny didn't know how to respond, so he simply nodded. As he walked out of the building, he felt a sense of purpose that was unlike anything he had experienced before. For the first time, he wasn't just surviving, he was helping build a future that, for the first time in years, felt attainable. When Elon handed Benny a sealed envelope for his final task, Benny felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This one's different, Elon said, his expression serious but kind. You've proven you can tackle external challenges. Now, this is about confronting something within yourself. Open it when you're ready. Benny waited until he was alone in his modest housing, far from the overpass where he used to sleep. Before opening the envelope, Benny's hands shook slightly as he ripped open the envelope, revealing a single sheet of paper with a name and address, Maria Bennett, followed by an apartment number. A wave of dread washed over him. Maria was his younger sister, the one person he hadn't seen or spoken to in over 5 years. Their last exchange had been a fierce argument, fueled by his reckless behavior and her refusal to continue bailing him out. Anger, shame, and pride had kept him from reaching out since then. And now, as if out of nowhere, Elon Musk was asking him to face the person he had hurt most and try to repair the damage. The next morning, Benny stood in front of the apartment building listed on the paper. It was a modest complex, its paint chipped and courtyard overgrown with neglected plants. He felt like an intruder, unsure of how to face Maria, unsure of what kind of reception awaited him. His mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Would she even recognize him? Would she slam the door in his face? Or worse, would she look at him with nothing but contempt? He stood there for a moment, paralyzed by the uncertainty, but then forced himself to knock. The door creaked open, revealing a woman in her early 30s. She looked at him, her eyes tired but sharp, her posture defensive. For a long beat, she just stared, unreadable. Benny's voice faltered as he said her name, barely above a whisper. Maria? She folded her arms, her stance rigid. Benny, what are you doing here? He swallowed, struggling for words. I'm trying to fix things. To fix us. Maria's eyes narrowed, her tone colder. Now you want to fix things? After everything? Do you have any idea what it was like wondering if you were even alive? All the times you lied to me, took advantage of me? Her words hit Benny like a physical blow. He had no defense. He had been selfish, destructive, and Maria had paid the price for it. You're right, he whispered, his voice cracking. I was wrong. I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm trying to change. I've been part of a program, an opportunity that's helping me turn my life around. Part of that is facing the people I've let down. Maria didn't soften immediately. Her gaze remained sharp, skeptical. And what? Showing up here fixes everything? Benny shook his head, his voice thick with emotion. No, I don't think it fixes anything. I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. I want to do better. Not just for me, but for you, too, if you'll let me. There was a long pause, the silence stretching between them like a chasm. Then, with a reluctant sigh, Maria stepped aside, motioning for Benny to come in. The apartment was small but cozy, decorated with framed photos and the lingering scent of fresh coffee. On a side table, Benny saw a picture of their parents and another of Maria, smiling with friends. The tension in the room was palpable, but as they sat across from each other, it wasn't entirely suffocating. Maria, still guarded, asked him about his life. Where had he been? What had he been doing? Benny answered truthfully. telling her about the years of homelessness, the constant shame, and the unexpected opportunity Elon Musk had given him. As he spoke, Maria's hard exterior began to crack. She opened up, too, sharing how she'd spent years worrying about him, how angry and helpless she'd felt, and how she had eventually chosen to focus on her own life because she couldn't save him. "I wanted to help you," she said, her voice quivering, "but you didn't want to help yourself. It broke my heart." Benny's eyes stung with tears as he nodded. "I know, and I hate that I put you through that, but I'm trying, Maria. I really am." When he left her apartment, the sun was beginning to set, casting a soft glow over the city. Before he walked out, Maria gave him a hug, brief but meaningful. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was a start. As Benny stepped outside, he pulled out his phone and typed a quick message to Elon. "Task complete. Thank you." Elon's response came almost immediately. "Well done. See you tomorrow." Benny tucked his phone back into his pocket, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. This final challenge had been the hardest yet, but it was also the most important. For the first time in years, he felt like he had made a real step toward mending, not just his life, but the broken relationships along the way. He wasn't sure what the future held, but as he walked away, he felt lighter, stronger, ready. A month had passed since Benny's life began to shift, and now he found himself standing once again outside the Tesla showroom in downtown Los Angeles, a place that marked the start of his transformation. The early morning sun cast a golden glow over the city, but Benny was hardly aware of it. His mind was racing with thoughts about what Elon Musk had planned for today. Benny's life had been irrevocably altered since their first meeting. Over the past month, he had accomplished things he once thought impossible, met people who believed in him, and even started mending his fractured relationship with his sister. Yet, as he stood before the same sleek showroom, the nervousness and anticipation were palpable. The crowd gathered outside was noticeably larger this time. Reporters, Tesla employees, and curious onlookers, all drawn by rumors of an announcement. As cameras flashed and microphones were adjusted, Benny's heart raced. Then, a few minutes later, Elon Musk arrived, stepping out of a Model X with his signature calm confidence. He walked over to Benny, offering a firm handshake and a smile. "Ready for this?" Elon asked. "I think so," Benny replied, though his voice betrayed his pounding heart. They walked onto a makeshift stage set up in front of the showroom, and Elon took the microphone first, addressing the crowd with his usual blend of humor and visionary thinking. "When I started Tesla," he began, "it wasn't just about building cars. It was about solving big problems, problems that seemed impossible to fix. Today, I want to talk about another problem we're tackling: homelessness. It's an issue that affects millions, not just here in Los Angeles, but across the world. And like all big problems, the solution starts with a simple idea: belief. Belief that people, no matter their circumstances, can change their lives when given the right tools and opportunities." He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in before continuing. "Over the past month, we've been testing a pilot program aimed at helping people get back on their feet. It's not about handouts, it's about empowerment. And today, I want to introduce you to someone who has helped us prove that this idea can work." Elon turned to Benny and gestured for him to take the microphone. Benny's stomach flipped. Public speaking had never been his thing, but as he stood in front of the crowd, he reminded himself of all he had achieved. "My name is Benny," he began, his voice surprisingly steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest. "A month ago, I was standing over there, holding a cardboard sign, asking for change. I wasn't just homeless, I was hopeless. I didn't think my life could get better. But then something happened I never expected." Elon Musk stopped, listened to me, and gave me a chance. He glanced at Elon, who nodded encouragingly. "This past month has been the hardest and most rewarding time of my life. I've learned to face challenges, lead others, and, most importantly, believe in myself again. I've learned that change isn't about where you start, it's about where you're willing to go. And I'm here today to tell you that anyone can take that journey if they're given the chance." The crowd erupted in applause, and Benny stepped back, overwhelmed by a mix of pride and relief. Elon returned to the microphone, holding a small envelope in his hand. "Benny," he said, "you've proven something incredible, not just to me, but to everyone here. You've shown that when you give people the tools to succeed, they don't just survive, they thrive. As a token of that journey, I want to give you something." He handed Benny the envelope. Inside was a single dollar bill, crisp and pristine. Benny stared at it, his mind flashing back to the day he had asked Elon for $1 on the sidewalk. The symbolism hit him hard. "You asked for $1, Elon said with a grin. "But what you've earned is far more valuable. Along with that dollar comes an official job offer. Benny, I'd like you to join Tesla as the program manager for this initiative. You'll help us expand the program, share your story, and inspire others to take the first steps toward change." Benny's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Elon replied, as the crowd erupted in cheers. For the first time in years, Benny felt seen, valued, and capable of making a difference. As the event wrapped up, he found himself surrounded by reporters and congratulatory strangers. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. Later that evening, sitting alone in his temporary apartment, Benny stared at the dollar bill Elon had given him. It wasn't just a symbol of survival anymore. It was a reminder of how far he had come, of transformation, hope, and the power of taking a chance on himself and others. Benny folded the dollar carefully and placed it in his wallet, a keepsake from the moment his life changed forever. With a renewed sense of purpose, he began planning his next steps, not just for himself, but for the countless others still waiting for their chance to believe in something better. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.